Welcome to this video for GCSE Citizenship, looking at how to approach 8-mark questions and use the W.R.I.T.E method to write these questions. So in this exam, you're going to face 8-mark questions in each section across the 2 papers. Generally, you're going to face 2 questions in each section, apart from section A on paper 1. This is where you only face 1 question on campaign methods. The questions are generally focused around the examples you can see on screen, similar where you're given a case study, a context, a source to build your question on. These will either focus on a specific campaign method, a type of action, or like the example you can see in the middle, it will talk about the importance of bringing about change or how people can take part in an action, and it gives you an issue that needs to be sorted out or supported. Now, when it comes to these 8-mark questions, I use what's called the W.R.I.T.E method. So this one here, so write as in writing out. So that covers what for the W, read for the R, identify for I, think for T, and explain for E. And so this W.R.I.T.E method is an approach you can use when breaking a question down to ensure that you have successfully answered and hit all those criteria points. So if we take this example of this question here, so this is a question I've made up. It's not a real exam board question, but I've made it based on similar past questions where you've been asked about the use of social media or use of a celebrity to support a cause, a campaign. And I've kind of just taken a current event, which was Deborah James's Bow Babe Fund campaign. And I've taken a news article about what she achieved, and this is very similar to what you'd see in a real exam paper. Now, if we take the W.R.I.T.E method approach and we can apply that here, so the first element of W.R.I.T.E is what, and what is the question asking you? And as you can see at the bottom, I've highlighted a couple of parts from that question. So examine why people wishing to bring about change or support an issue may use social media to achieve their goal. That's the first part of the question. Then you have this second part you can see below where it says, in your response, you should refer to source A, the image on the screen, and other examples to show your other examples of how groups who have used social media. So that's the question. That's what we're being asked. And in a nutshell, how can social media help secure a change or support a cause? And essentially, what are the pros and cons of social media? So that's our first. That's what the question is asking. We then need to read the image, read the item, and look at what the source tells us. And again, it's important to look at the image and the text because you'll be given both and can use both in your question. So already highlighted here in the text, it talks about £1.5 million being raised in 24 hours. The BBC presenter had a podcast. She had a lot of support already. She used it to update her followers on treatments and sort of what was happening with her. And you can see more than 1.36 million pound was raised by 3 p.m. on the Tuesday. So very, very quick sourcing of data and donations. What I've also picked up from the item, again, to 500,000 followers, lots of likes on the post. Obviously the logo shows there's a clear kind of practiced or publicized fund, and also just highlight that again we've got a celebrity figure. So these would be the things you could pull from the item, just some facts, some information. Step 3 is to identify the key points. Now again, that item has a lot of information about her action, but the 2 key points I wanted to pull out was really in the final couple of sentences. So it highlighted 2 goals of the campaign. The first goal was to raise money for Cancer Research UK. The original target of £250,000 was completely overshot. They got 1.36 million in less than 24 hours. So that's a massive goal and an extension of the goal that they hoped. The second goal, the very final sentence, raise awareness of cancer such as bowel cancer and UK's Never Too Young campaign. So this was all about raising awareness of again of the issue and making sure people understood what was happening. So they're the two goals. Again, still part of the reading process, but I've identified the key things from the item that I want to flag up. Now, think is our next step. Think is bringing in other examples from your own knowledge, from your lessons, from what you've been doing in class with your teacher. And in terms of social media use, thinking about campaigns, I thought about examples like Greenpeace versus Barbie, Marcus Rashford, who used Twitter as an open platform with an open letter to target all MPs, very publicly talking about what he wanted to achieve. The Greenpeace versus Barbie campaign I mentioned was very, very good at using social media as a way of advertising and publicising their wider campaign. It wasn't Greenpeace was directly had an issue with the Barbie doll, but it was more about Mattel using paper produced by a company called APP, which was engaged in deforestation in Indonesia. Other examples, I thought about Gina Martin and her Stop Skirting the Issue campaign. Again, that hashtag Stop Skirting the Issue was a big catalyst for driving her campaign forward, bringing in new laws to make upskirting illegal. And again, thinking about the celebrity, the social media use, I thought about the Ocean Cleanup Project, which has seen sort of celebrity YouTubers like Mr. Beast being quite key figures in driving that campaign forward. So we have some other examples. And last but not least, we need to know the pros and cons. Now, again, this comes from your own knowledge. And again, these were ideas that my students put forward. And actually, they had some other ones on there that I haven't mentioned, which could also fit somewhere between. So the main strengths of using social media, the explain element of right, how it helps the items to answer the question. Social media is really good. It's cheap and it's a free campaign tool. You get a large audience. You can raise awareness of an issue. Posts can go viral. You can raise money, get donations like the Bell Babe example, set up GoFundMe pages, and it can also be an example of digital democracy. One of the things my students also mentioned is that you can pay for your post to become more prominent in people's feeds. So again, they were kind of saying it's not overly expensive to do this, but again, you could pay to have your post promoted and bumped up and more visible to more. So again, more awareness raised, but a small cost. The downside, not all target groups or audiences are online. So depending on who you're trying to target, who you're trying to raise awareness of, that demographic of people may not use social media. Now, luckily, that second goal was about the Never Too Young campaign. So predominantly younger people being targeted, social media is a good fit for that. Also, again, the range of platforms. There are so many different social media platforms. If you wanted to have that biggest awareness raising impact, you might need to use multiple platforms to target your audiences. The other downside is that social media can raise awareness, but you need governmental change, you need petitions, you might need other methods to actually make a change take place. And finally, you get the echo chamber effect. Often the people you are raising awareness of already support your cause, already interested in your issue, and probably therefore they're going to be more likely to support it anyway. One of the things you may be trying to do with a campaign is target people who you wouldn't normally interact with or people who wouldn't normally support your issue, and again, you're trying to bring them on board. So let's take those ideas and put it into a plan. So the introduction for these 8 markers, the thing you want to do at the very beginning is address the question or define the issue. And again, in this case, it might be defining what social media is or what it means. And again, a very simple 1 sentence, 1.5 sentence introduction just to get the essay rolling. So as I put here, social media campaigns use new media platforms. I've just given examples of Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I've put these platforms are free to use and are an effective way to raise awareness of an issue, as seen in source A. So I've just kind of made a very loose connection to the source, because again, that exam question at the beginning wants us to use the source in our answer. So again, very loosely linked. I will tie in a little bit more as we go. Now, the first thing you want to do for 8 marks in these 8 markers, a little introduction, and then generally I say 2 strengths and then 2 weaknesses, or 2 agreements for the question, 2 arguments against it. So because social media is an effective tool at bringing about change, as it mentions in the question, I've taken 2 ways in which this is the case. In red, I've made reference to source A, as the question wants us. Green is my own knowledge or my own examples, again, as the question asks. The strengths I've highlighted, again, raising awareness. I've talked about how Deborah James informed her 500 followers, got nearly 250,000 likes on the post. So again, that's raised awareness. Marcus Rashford, when he used Twitter to share his letter to free school meals, again, raised a lot of awareness, gained a lot of support. The benefit of social media as a campaign tool is that it's interactive. So again, you can get your audience to participate, to take part by sharing, liking, or commenting. It also is an easy way for people to donate money. So again, I've tried to tie in Deborah James. I haven't explicitly mentioned it, but again, we can see that in source A. I've also used the ocean cleanup example here again to highlight how fundraising can be used. Arguments against social media use. So again, I've talked about how it's not effective for targeting all demographics, not all audiences are online, and they'd have to use lots of different platforms. So not always the best method. And then again, bringing in my own example once more. Again, social media can raise awareness of an issue, but actually, in most cases, it needs governmental action or someone to take actual decisions, make an actual change occur. So again, Gina Martin's upskirting law, very big social media presence, very much social media driving the change, but actually it was the government who had to make the final decision and change the law. And then conclusions. The best conclusions are often confident and they agree or they disagree with the view. I don't think it matters too much whether you agree or disagree, because your answer, if you kind of follow the template of 2 agrees, 2 disagrees, then you could kind of sit either way. But try and make a final judgment. In my opinion, this is good. I agree. This method is effective. It's not effective because, rather than just say it's good because, but bad because, and kind of leave there. So always try and come up with a final decision. And as I said, here I've put overall, despite the challenges using social media, they are an excellent tool when engaging in raising awareness of a campaign and gaining support for an action. So I've kind of gone with actually they're a good thing overall. And again, very basic template, very basic plan, but you can see the kind of, hopefully you can see the structure here. So introduction, 2 agrees, 2 disagrees, and generally a conclusion sitting on one side of the answer. So just to wrap up this how to write 8 markers, the right way to write them. First of all, what is the question asking you to do? Secondly, read the item and look at the image. Again, if there's an image, use that and refer to that. Picture tells 1,000 words. Identify the key points from the item that you want to use in your answer. Think about the examples from your own lesson that you can use to support what you're saying, and make sure you have explained, or you explain how the item links to your answer. Try and make sure you're referencing the item or examples throughout your response. And again, this right way to write 8 markers is something I've come up with. It's not an official technique, but again, I feel it's helpful for giving you a template to build on to hopefully maximize your marks in these questions. As always, thanks for watching. Hope this helps, and take care.